Good morning. It's a little late morning, but it's still morning. Today, I'm kind of excited. Today is the feast of St. Teresa of Avila. And for those who are not familiar with, she is the first doctor of the church. She was this nun that kind of totally revamped the Carmelite order, kind of making a split in it, starting a group called the Descales, which basically means the shoeless. So they experience extreme poverty. But she started out in a regular family. She's in Spain, and her grandfather had been a Jew. And at that time, she's born around 1515. During that time her grandfather was around, he was a Jewish fellow, and the Jews and the Muslims at that time, her grandfather's time, had to convert to Catholicism or they had to leave the country. So her grandfather converted. He was a good cloth merchant, and he converted, and still got a little hard time where he lived, so he moved to Avila, where he has a son, and the son has Teresa of Avila. And Teresa, when she's 14 years old, her father and her mom had already passed away at this time, and her older sister had just gotten married. So his father, knowing that she was having a few different suitors coming after her, and it seemed a little bit not appropriate, he decided that, well, the best thing to do is put her in the convent, and they prepared girls for married life and such, and they had like a preparatory program, not necessarily educational, but certainly preparatory. So she goes to the convent, and she's there for a while. She gets pretty sick after. I'm trying to remember if this is after she first gets her or after she's a nun. I'm not sure which, but by the time she's 20, she decides to become a professed nun, and so she joins the order. She does get very sick at some point, and her father takes her to some doctor who turns out to be a quack, and she ends up just in terrible health, near death a couple times. And when she first comes back to her parents' house after being at the doctor's for a while, she couldn't walk. She had 3 years where she was paralyzed from the waist down. But lo and behold, and she gives credit to St. Joseph, she came around in her health enough, and she was able to return to the convent. When she's at the convent, she realizes that life is not super difficult. This is basically wealthy women that have been giving a certain amount of endowment money or dowry money given to the convent, so they live pretty well. Now, they had fasting, and they did morning, evening prayer. They did liturgy of the hours. But it wasn't a real tough environment. They typically would have men come and visit them in the parlor, and so they would go and have these gay old chats. She was very charismatic, so she's very popular among the men visitors that came to the convent and just chatted. This wasn't religious advice, it was just chatting. Well, by the time she gets to be 39, she has an experience where she's looking at a picture of Jesus being crucified, and she absorbs all of a sudden the pain that he experienced, and she could identify with that pain because she had been there. All of a sudden she realized she was in the wrong direction. She had to get a lot more serious about prayer. Now, this is while she's in a convent. She gets a lot more serious about her prayer, so much so that she says the convent doesn't work right, and she decided she needed something that was more austere, more into poverty. And so she created a convent, and it took a lot of willpower, and there was a lot of resistance, but she established her own convent of Carmelite nuns who are, again, shoeless or descaled, as they're called. Now, as she does this, and she gets serious about her prayer life, even before she starts this convent, she starts having visions, mystical experiences. She starts having stuff that starts getting deeper and deeper to a point where she almost goes into ecstasy later in life when she has these experiences. I'm not sure why my thing is pausing every now and then. But anyway, be that as it may, these experiences become so powerful. And what she does is she goes to confessors because she's nervous. There's two things to be nervous about. One is this is the time of the Inquisition, where anything that smacks of Protestantism or devil worship or something, they would execute you. So there was a concern for that. But that wasn't her greater concern. Her greater concern was that what if these visions she was having were from the devil and not from Jesus himself? So she went to several different confessors and looked for spiritual advice. The people were so impressed that heard her. They asked her to write down what has happened, write down what's going on here, write down your life. And she wrote several books then. And these books became just phenomenal insights into prayer life. I had an experience with Teresa of Avila. We had a retreat some years back I went to with my brother Mike. We both had been connected in high school with the Carmelite Seminary in Niagara Falls, Canada. It's a beautiful place. It overlooks the falls. It's gorgeous. But anyway, I spent most of this silent retreat. They had this room upstairs kind of rounded in the corner of the building, and there's windows all around. And I'm hearing the roar of the falls. But I'm reading Teresa of Avila, her first book, and I am so taken aback over this period of time. Now, this is over 3 days. I came out of this saying, holy cow, prayer is possible. Doesn't that sound like a humble thing to say? Prayer is possible. But there's something about breaking through in prayer. And I invite myself to, again, as I'm experiencing her day, her life, if I'm experiencing her day one more time, I challenge myself to could I pray a little deeper? If I'm saying the rosary, can I be aware that something deeper is going on? If I'm doing a centering prayer or whatever prayer you're typed with, but do it with an intensity that allows Jesus in. And it allows the fact that I'm grateful to God and I'm so unworthy. All that together and allow myself to go deeper. She describes the essence of going into prayer as like you pray and raindrops come down. And then later you pray and all of a sudden you're in the pouring rain. And then as you get even more and more in, you're in the pool. You're submerged in the water and the grace of our God. Well, there's a lot to go for, and I don't think that I'll ever quite get as far as Teresa of Avila did. But it's a challenge for me and for you, and this could lead us to some good things. Thank you.